Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. Today we're going to be taking on The Art of War by Sun Tzu,
Ah,
a
yes.
book that has been read and studied for centuries by all sorts of people.
Yes.
But it always seems like there's a bit of mystery surrounding Sun Tzu himself.
Oh, I.
Like, was he a real person or just a legend?
Yeah, that's where it starts to get intriguing.
Yeah.
Sources like the Shih Chi present Sun Tzu as like an actual general serving under King Holu of Wu, but then the Sichuan,
Yeah.
which is like a major historical record of that period, makes no mention of him at all.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like he's this phantom.
Wow.
Some scholars even think that The Art of War was actually written by a scholar later on, not like a seasoned general at all.
Wait, so this legendary military manual
Yeah.
might be a work of fiction. That's quite the twist.
I know. But here's the thing. Even if Sun Tzu's like existence is debated, the text itself reveals, I don't know, like such deep insights into warfare that they just resonate with real battles and strategies across time.
Interesting.
Like, for example, the book emphasizes like deception, right, as the foundation of warfare,
Okay.
which is an idea that you see echoed by military minds like centuries later, Wellington, you know?
Wow. It's incredible how a text from ancient China can still be relevant to military strategy even today.
I know, it's mind-blowing.
It really is.
The book dives into the importance of like carefully assessing terrain, knowing your enemy,
Yeah.
knowing yourself, and even managing like the moods and the morale of your troops.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy how Sun Tzu connects all these seemingly disparate elements to like achieving victory.
And he's not afraid to challenge conventional thinking,
Oh no.
like suggesting you should sometimes disobey the ruler's direct orders.
Right?
If it means securing a victory, that's pretty bold.
Yeah. That's Sun Tzu's pragmatic approach. He prioritized, I don't know, military necessity
Yeah.
over blind obedience. I mean, that's a pretty radical idea even today. He even advises, like, leaving an escape route open when you surround an enemy.
Oh, really?
Not to let them flee, but to avoid, like, pushing them into, like, a desperate last stand.
Oh, to avoid like that cornered animal mentality.
It's
It's like a psychological game of chess, using tactics not just on the battlefield, but like inside the minds of your opponents.
Oh, yeah,
And your own troops even.
definitely. Speaking of minds, Sun Tzu was, like, a master of intelligence gathering.
Okay.
His breakdown of the 5 types of spies.
Wow.
Local, inward converted, doomed, and surviving is like a blueprint for building a super sophisticated espionage network. It's scary effective.
It is. It's like something straight out of a spy movie. That's really cool.
It is.
I can see why the art of war is still studied by military leaders and even business strategists today. I mean,
Yeah.
lessons on planning, leadership, deception, adaptability. These all transcend time and battlefield boundaries.
They do. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The Art of War's journey to becoming like a classic is a fascinating one. Like, for centuries after its creation, it was largely forgotten.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like this hidden gem just waiting to be rediscovered.
Wow.
It wasn't until the Song dynasty around the 11th century
Okay.
that scholars kind of stumbled upon this treasure trove of military wisdom.
So it was scholars, not generals,
Exactly.
who brought the art of war back to the forefront.
Yeah, they recognized like the brilliance of Sun Tzu's strategies
Uh-huh.
and saw their relevance not just for warfare, but for like any situation requiring strategic thinking.
Interesting.
And they began like writing commentaries, dissecting the text, and presenting its wisdom to those in like positions of power.
It's like they were translating Sun Tzu's ancient wisdom into like a language that resonated with their contemporary world.
Exactly. And that process of like translation and interpretation
Right.
has continued through the centuries. The art of war has been studied by everyone from Napoleon to Machiavelli,
Wow.
from military leaders to business executives. Its influence has truly transcended time and culture.
It's amazing to think that a text written over 2,000 years ago is still being studied and applied today.
I know, it's incredible.
What do you think accounts for its enduring relevance?
I think it's because Sun Tzu like tapped into something universal about,
Yeah.
human nature, about the dynamics of conflict and competition.
Mm-hmm.
His insights into strategy, leadership, and the psychology of conflict are as relevant today as they were back then in ancient China.
You mentioned earlier Sun Tzu's emphasis on understanding
Yeah.
wake points and strong.
Hmm.
Can you elaborate on that concept
Of course.
and maybe talk about how it applies beyond the battlefield?
Yeah, so imagine a business negotiation.
Okay.
Sun Tzu would advise you to carefully assess your own strengths and weaknesses as well as those of your counterpart.
Okay, so know yourself and know your enemy.
Exactly. Where do you have an advantage? Where are they vulnerable?
Right.
By understanding these dynamics, you can develop a strategy that maximizes your strengths
Right.
while exploiting their weaknesses.
Okay. So it's about being strategic in your approach, not just relying on,
Right.
brute force or charisma.
Exactly. It's about being thoughtful and analytical, about using your intelligence to gain an advantage.
Okay.
Sun Tzu believed that victory often lay in identifying and exploiting those subtle imbalances, those
Yeah.
areas where you have a strategic edge.
That makes me think about the importance of self-awareness.
Yeah.
You need to understand your own strengths and weaknesses before you can effectively, leverage them or mitigate them.
Totally. Self-awareness is crucial for any leader, any strategist, anyone who wants to navigate complex situations effectively.
Right.
And that's another key takeaway from The Art of War.
Yeah.
The importance of knowing yourself.
It sounds like The Art of War isn't just a guide to defeating your enemies. It's also a guide to mastering yourself.
I like that. It's very true. Sun Tzu believed that true victory began with self-mastery,
Okay.
with understanding your own emotions, motivations, and biases. Only then could you effectively lead others and navigate the complexities of conflict.
That makes me think about another concept we discussed earlier, the importance of choosing your battles wisely.
Yes.
Knowing yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, can help you decide which battles are worth fighting,
Yeah.
which ones are better to avoid.
Absolutely. Sun Tzu would argue that a skilled leader doesn't just engage in every conflict that comes up. They carefully assess each situation, weigh the potential costs and benefits,
Right.
and only engage in battles that align with your overall strategy and goals.
So it's not about being aggressive or confrontational all the time. It's about being strategic and discerning in your approach to conflict.
Exactly. It's about choosing your battles wisely, knowing when to push forward and when to hold back, when to negotiate and when to stand firm.
Right.
It's about having that wisdom to discern which battles will ultimately lead you closer to your goals and which ones will just drain your energy and resources.
Earlier, we talked about Sun Tzu's concept of deception in warfare.
Yes.
How does that translate to a more general context? Is it ethical to use deception in everyday life?
That's a complex question with no easy answers.
Right.
Sun Tzu definitely believed that deception was a legitimate tactic in warfare, a way to gain an advantage over your opponent.
Right.
But how that translates to everyday life is a matter of, personal interpretation and ethical consideration.
I can imagine there's a fine line between strategic maneuvering and outright dishonesty.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a delicate balance.
Yep.
I think the key is to be mindful of your intentions
Yeah.
and the potential consequences of your actions.
Right.
Are you using deception to manipulate or harm others, or are you just trying to be, strategic in your communication to present yourself in the best possible light?
So it's about being mindful of the ethical implications of our actions.
Yes.
Even in situations that might seem relatively inconsequential.
Exactly. I think Sun Tzu would agree that ethics and morality should always be a consideration, even in the midst of conflict or competition.
Right.
After all, true victory is not just about achieving your goals.
Yeah.
It's also about maintaining your integrity and your principles.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
It reminds us that winning at all costs isn't always the best approach.
Right.
Sometimes the most strategic move is to prioritize ethical considerations and seek solutions that benefit everyone involved.
Well said. And that brings us to another important aspect of Sun Tzu's teachings.
Right.
The concept of adaptability, he famously said. Just as water retains no constant shape, so in warfare, there are no constant conditions.
Wow.
This emphasis on flexibility and adaptability is relevant to, any aspect of life.
Can you give us an example of how this concept of adaptability might apply in a modern context?
Yeah. Okay, so imagine you're launching a new business venture. You've developed a solid business plan, secured funding, assembled a talented team.
Right.
But then the market shifts unexpectedly.
Oh.
A new competitor emerges, or a technological innovation disrupts your industry.
So what do?
Yeah.
Stick to the original plan, even though it's no longer relevant.
Sun Tzu would say that's a recipe for disaster.
Right.
He believed that a skilled leader, a true strategist, must be able to adapt to changing circumstances, adjust their plans, and seize new opportunities as they arise.
So it's about being flexible, open to new information,
Yeah.
and willing to pivot when necessary.
Exactly. Sun Tzu would argue that rigidity and dogma are the enemies of success.
Right.
In a constantly changing world, the ability to adapt is essential for survival, let alone victory.
Right. That makes me think about the importance of continuous learning,
Yeah.
of always being open to new ideas and perspectives.
Totally. Sun Tzu believed that a true leader, a true strategist, is always learning, always evolving, always seeking to expand their knowledge and understanding of the world.
This deep dive into the art of war has been incredibly enlightening.
It has been.
We've covered so much ground, from the nuances of strategic thinking to the importance of self-awareness,
Right.
from the role of deception to the need for adaptability.
Yeah.
But there's one more aspect of Sun Tzu's teachings that I'd like to explore.
Okay.
His insights into the importance of terrain.
Ah, yes. Terrain played like a crucial role in Sun Tzu's strategic thinking. He believed that understanding and utilizing the terrain to your advantage was like essential
Right.
for achieving victory.
This makes me think about like the phrase home field advantage in sports.
Yeah.
Teams often perform better
Yeah.
when they're playing on their own turf in a familiar environment.
Exactly. Sun Tzu would argue that the same principle applies to warfare, to business, to any competitive endeavor.
Right.
Understanding the terrain, whether it's like the physical landscape or the market conditions or the social dynamics of a situation, is crucial for developing an effective strategy.
So it's about knowing the lay of the land, so to speak.
Yeah.
And using it to your advantage.
Exactly. Sun Tzu identified 6 different types of terrain: accessible, entangling, temporizing, narrow passes, precipitous heights,
Wow.
and positions at a great distance from the enemy. He explained how each type of terrain presented unique challenges and opportunities, and how a skilled commander could use the terrain to their advantage.
So it's not just about knowing the terrain, it's about understanding how to utilize it strategically.
Exactly. Sun Tzu emphasized like the importance of choosing favorable ground,
Yeah.
positioning your troops in a way that maximizes your strengths and minimizes your weaknesses.
Okay.
He also talked about using the terrain to deceive the enemy, to create like illusions and ambushes.
It sounds like he was like a master of using the environment itself as a weapon.
Oh, yeah.
But how does that concept apply to a more general context, beyond warfare?
Well, think about it this way. Every situation, every interaction, every endeavor has its own like terrain. It could be the physical environment, the social dynamics, the market conditions, or even like the emotional landscape. The key is to be aware of the terrain that you're navigating and to use it to your advantage.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say you're trying to, I don't know, persuade a group of people to adopt a new idea.
Okay.
You need to be aware of the terrain of that situation,
Right.
What are their preconceived notions? What are their fears and motivations? What are the power dynamics at play?
Right.
By understanding these nuances, you can tailor your message and your approach to be more persuasive and effective.
So it's about, reading the room, so to speak,
Yeah,
and adapting your approach accordingly.
exactly. It's about being sensitive to like the context, the nuances, unspoken dynamics of the situation.
Right.
And that's where Sun Tzu's wisdom really shines.
Yeah.
He encourages us to be observant, analytical, and adaptable in our approach to any challenge.
This has been an incredible deep dive into the wisdom of Sun Tzu.
It really has.
We've explored the depths of his strategic thinking, his insights into human nature,
Yes.
and his enduring relevance for the modern world.
Exactly.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what you personally find most compelling about the art of war. What resonates with you most deeply?
That's a wonderful question. For me, the most captivating aspect of the art of war is its timeless wisdom.
Yeah.
Despite being written over 2,000 years ago, it still offers, profound insights into the nature of conflict, the dynamics of power, and like the art of achieving victory in any arena of life. But beyond its like strategic brilliance, what truly fascinates me is the book's underlying message of peace and harmony.
Peace and harmony. That seems, a little paradoxical considering the book is about warfare.
I know, it seems counterintuitive.
Right.
But if you look closely at Sun Tzu's teachings, you'll find that his ultimate goal was to avoid conflict altogether.
Really?
Yeah, he saw warfare as a last resort,
Okay.
a necessary evil to be avoided whenever possible.
Okay.
His ideal was to achieve victory without fighting. to outmaneuver your opponent through strategy and diplomacy rather than brute force.
So it's about finding ways to resolve conflict peacefully.
Yes.
Without resorting to violence or aggression.
Exactly. Sun Tzu believed that true strength lay not in, like, military might, but in wisdom, foresight, and the ability to anticipate and avoid unnecessary conflict.
Right.
He taught that a skilled leader should strive to create a situation where victory is inevitable.
Interesting.
Where the opponent is compelled to surrender without a fight.
That sounds like, I don't know, a very idealistic vision.
It is.
But is it realistic in a world where conflict seems to be an inherent part of the human experience?
It's definitely like a challenging ideal to achieve.
Yeah.
But I think Sun Tzu would argue that it's an ideal worth striving for.
Right.
His teachings remind us that conflict is not inevitable, that there are always alternatives to violence and aggression.
Right.
He encourages us to think strategically, to be mindful of the consequences of our actions, and to seek solutions that benefit all parties involved.
That's a powerful message, especially in today's world.
It is.
Where we're constantly bombarded with, I don't know, news of conflict and division.
Right.
It's a reminder that peace is not like a passive state.
Right.
But an active pursuit requiring wisdom, courage, and a willingness to seek common ground.
Well said. Sun Tzu's teachings offer a roadmap for navigating, like, the complexities of conflict and achieving a state of peace and harmony.
Right.
It's a roadmap that requires us to be strategic in our thinking, mindful of our actions, and compassionate in our interactions.
This deep dive into the art of war has been a transformative experience.
It has.
We've uncovered not just military strategies, but also profound insights into human nature, the dynamics of power, and the pursuit of peace. It's a testament to the enduring power of ancient wisdom and its ability to guide us towards a better future.
I completely agree.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating how The Art of War, a book that's all about, conflict, ultimately points us towards peace.
Right.
But before we get too deep into that, I'm curious about something you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You said that The Art of War was largely forgotten for centuries before being rediscovered by scholars.
Yeah.
What sparked that renewed interest?
It is kind of a historical mystery. It seems that during the Song dynasty, which was a period of, significant cultural and intellectual flourishing, scholars just kind of stumbled upon this ancient text and recognized its profound wisdom. They saw in Sun Tzu strategies like a blueprint, not just for military success, but for navigating the complexities of life itself.
And so they saw beyond just the battlefield tactics and recognized the broader implications of Sun Tzu's teachings?
Exactly. These scholars saw in The Art of War a guide to leadership, strategy, and decision-making that was relevant not just for generals, but for anyone in a position of authority.
Yeah.
And they started writing commentaries, analyzing Sun Tzu's strategies, and incorporating his teachings into their own philosophy.
It's like they were the original deep divers.
Oh, right? You say that?
Uncovering all these hidden layers of meaning
Yeah.
in this ancient text.
And their efforts played a crucial role in making sure that Sun Tzu's wisdom wasn't lost to history.
Right.
Their commentaries and interpretations helped to revive interest in the art of war and bring it to, a wider audience.
And that influence continued to spread throughout the centuries, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned that even figures like, Napoleon and Machiavelli were influenced by Sun Tzu.
Absolutely. As the art of war was translated into various languages, its reach extended far beyond China. Military leaders, political strategists, even business executives, they all found in Sun Tzu's teachings a timeless guide to achieving their objectives.
Interesting.
His principles of strategy, planning, and understanding human nature. They proved to be remarkably adaptable to a wide range of contexts.
It's incredible to think that a text written over 2,000 years ago could have such a lasting impact.
I know.
On global thought and action.
It really is.
It really is.
It's a testament to the power of, I think, Sun Tzu's insights. He tapped into something fundamental about human behavior, about the dynamics of power and conflict that transcends cultural boundaries and historical eras. His teachings offer a timeless framework for understanding and navigating the challenges we face, both individually and collectively.
You mentioned earlier that despite its focus on warfare,
yes,
the art of war ultimately points us toward a path of peace,
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Sun Tzu believed that the ultimate goal of any conflict should be to achieve a state of peace and harmony.
Huh.
He saw warfare as like a last resort,
Okay.
a necessary evil to be avoided whenever possible.
Uh-huh.
His ideal was to achieve victory without fighting,
Right.
to outmaneuver your opponent through strategy and diplomacy rather than brute force.
So it's about finding ways to resolve conflict peacefully without resorting to violence or aggression.
Exactly. Sun Tzu believed that true strength lay not in like military might, but in wisdom, foresight, and the ability to like anticipate and avoid unnecessary conflict.
So he was all about like preventing the fight before it even began.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He taught that a skilled leader should strive to create a situation where victory is inevitable, where the opponent is compelled to surrender without a fight.
That sounds like a very idealistic vision.
It is.
But is it realistic in a world where, conflicts seems to be like an inherent part of the human experience?
I mean, it's definitely a challenging ideal to achieve, but I think Sun Tzu would argue that it's an ideal worth striving for.
Right.
His teachings remind us that conflict is not inevitable, that there are always alternatives to violence and aggression.
Right.
He encourages us to think strategically, to be mindful of the consequences of our actions, and to seek solutions that benefit all parties involved.
That's a powerful message, especially in today's world.
I think so.
Where we're constantly bombarded with news of conflict and division.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that peace is not a passive state, but like an active pursuit requiring wisdom, courage, and a willingness to seek common ground.
Well said. Sun Tzu's teachings offer like a roadmap, for navigating all the complexities of conflict.
Exactly.
And achieving a state of peace and harmony.
I think so.
It's a roadmap that requires us to be strategic in our thinking, mindful of our actions, and compassionate in our interactions.
Very well said.
This deep dive into the art of war has been like a transformative experience.
It has been.
We've uncovered not just military strategies, but also profound insights into human nature, the dynamics of power, and the pursuit of peace.
It is.
It's a testament to the enduring power of, ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
And its ability to guide us toward a better future.
I couldn't agree more. And as we conclude this exploration, I want to encourage our listeners to continue reflecting on these teachings and to find ways to apply them in their own lives, their own relationships, and their own pursuit of, a more peaceful and harmonious world.
This has been an incredible journey, really exploring the depths of the art of war and discovering its relevance for the modern world.
It has.
We've uncovered like all this strategic insight, philosophical reflection, and even ethical considerations that I think challenge us to think differently about conflict, competition, and the pursuit of success.
It has been fascinating.
Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the art of war.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and inspiration from this ancient text. And that you'll continue to explore its wisdom and apply its teachings to your own lives.
I hope so too.